Hello, and welcome to my course on autism awareness and suicide prevention. It is for anyone with an interest in these fields. Udemy issues you a completion certificate when over, so you may add it to your curriculum vitae if you wish. My name is David Adrian Thomas, and I'm an Esquire of the Royal Division of the United Kingdom. I am the sole owner, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of the County Surveyor Society International Limited. It is a non-profit organisation registered in the UK that helps people who have the autism spectrum disorder, Asperger's syndrome, and their families, friends, carers and teachers. Children with autism spectrum disorder are, on average, 28 times as likely as ones without it to contemplate or attempt suicide. Adults who have Asperger's syndrome are, on average, about 9 times as likely as others to contemplate committing suicide. These are recent results of university research, but I've known about these bizarre phenomena half my life as I have them, and I've been coaching and counselling others with them for the past 21 years, so I know I'm not a lone recipient. I can only tell you about my experiences, as I have to protect my coaching and counselling clients' privacy. My very earliest memory is of dying in the womb and going back to heaven for God to hold and comfort me. My next earliest memory is of dying on my way home from maternity and of going back to heaven for God to hold and comfort me again. I'm not saying these events happened, only that inside my head I have memories of them. They were discovered when I had hypnoregression therapy in my late middle age. The hypnotherapy found other interesting memories. For example, that I had died 6 days a week, each week for the first 3.5 years of my life, but came back to life each time as I did not want it to be permanent. And whilst in heaven with God each day, I had tutorials from him and my other ancestors. But there was a time at 3.5 when I did want death to be permanent, and so I deliberately tried to deprive myself of life permanently. It was a joint suicide attempt with my mother's maternal grandfather. He attempted suicide because my mother enrolled me at county nursery school. I attempted suicide because I could not bear the thought of having to live without him. I won't elaborate any further. You can read about the incident in my ebook, David Bach, Death of Innocence, The Beginning. It's on Amazon. He fared worse than me and died of complications a year later. I did not start attending county nursery school that year after the suicide attempt. Instead, my mum parked me with her eldest aunt weekdays. The husband of my mum's eldest aunt was the pastor of the church my parents attended. They had missionary evening classes each weekday, so I attended with them for that year. It was a far cry from everything my mum's grandpa had taught me. He was deaf, dumb, autistic, feral and shamanic. When parked with my mother's eldest aunt, she dumped me in the evening classes library. I read every book it contained. My mum's grandpa taught me to read and write university entrance exam level, but not to speak verbally. When my mum's grandpa died, we had to vacate his cottage and move to a village 3 miles away. I began attending county school there. The nursery headmistress had also taught my father and his siblings when they were little. So in morning assembly she told everyone all she knew about us. She then asked me to tell them about my mother's side. I told them about my mum's grandpa and the other ancestors in heaven. She shut me up in a storeroom each school day, all day. After that, lest my autism disrupt the others. The same happened in infants. On graduating from infants to juniors, the headmaster called me witchcraft. It happened in the first morning assembly. He coerced the rest of the school to try to assassinate me by citing the Bible, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." They tried to kill me 4 times a day for the first 5 days. Each time I died, I went to heaven for protection. I began to believe I was a witch and didn't deserve to live. So on the 5th day after school, I ran away and tried to kill myself. I ended up frozen solid, no breathing, no heartbeat, and was declared dead when found. My mum was stripping me for an undertaker to take for autopsy when I came back to life. I learned from that experience that I had a higher self that would not let me commit suicide. Challenged by this stranger, I thought about how I might kill it every day until I was aged 15 and a half. When I had figured out a promising strategy, I put it into effect. I induced a batch of severe amnesias, including total loss of identity. I was under observation in hospital when I did it. I didn't know who I was, what I was, where I was, why I was there, or how or when I got to be there. And I stayed in that fog for the next 34 years of my life. I did not, in fact, kill my higher self. It turned me into a backroom workaholic, got me an epic job, and made me do epic things, including get married and father a child, despite my prior self swearing never to do either. Towards the end of my suicide ideation-free 34 years, my mother killed herself. It brought memories of my own suicide attempts back. I did not have a timeline back to birth in my head, but only disconnected memories. Flags of bunting with no string. Without the string, I was unable to tell which flags were true and which were false. The confusion overwhelmed me, so I began longing to kill myself. But my higher self said it was not an option because I was a husband and father. So I had a nervous breakdown instead. It was at my desk, in my inner office at work when it happened. Uncontrollable tears sprang from my eyes. I did not feel it coming, it hit me like a tsunami. So I phoned my boss for practical assistance. He told me to go home and wait there for a phone call from our private psychiatric consultant. That afternoon I attended hospital as a private psychiatric outpatient. I received hypnoregression therapy. The psychiatrist told me I had the autism spectrum disorder, Asperger's syndrome. I had never heard those terms before, so he explained them. The therapy was remarkably successful. I was asked to coach and counsel my fellow company surveyors to keep them from suicide ideating too. So I did at first using our internal office intranet system, and then, when they had all retired, on the World Wide Web Internet. I confined my attention to adults with Asperger's syndrome for the first 3 years. That's equal to 27 years of confining my attention to people without the condition, who had got around the internet that I was an expert, who had managed to keep myself suicide ideation free for 34 years. Soon I was having to coach and counsel people evenings, weekends and holidays to cope with the demand. I suffered extreme sleep deprivation and tried to kill myself. Gone was the sense of responsibility from being a husband and father. The only duty I conceded was to wait until my wife and child were staying in the home of a relative of my wife's before I attempted the deed. I was completely off my head, but incredibly irrational about the whole thing. My higher self sent me back with a mission that would keep me busy until my retirement. I returned to my coaching and counselling, but took care not to deprive myself of sleep. On retirement, I refreshed my knowledge and skills by study of high school, college and university level lectures and an autobiographical trilogy and compendium. They became bestsellers. The editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post invited me to have a voice as a featured blogger, and a reader challenged me to find a holistic solution to the suicide ideation problem. I therefore researched and developed the 7-step program I'm going to teach you, as it proved 100% successful and popular with my clients. So, that's the end of my backstory. In my next lecture, I will dive straight into step 1. It has proved so successful with clients that many have not bothered to proceed to step 2 yet, for step 1 appears to have effectively eradicated their suicide ideations. So, ciao for now. I hope to see you all again soon. Bye bye.